Hi, good morning. I'm Christine Dunbar from SpeechModification.com, and this is my Smart American Accent training. We're here for our regular Friday question and answer, and today we're going to be talking about American intonation and looking into how changing intonation changes the meaning of what you say. So we'll talk about how to be aware of that, how to do it, what it's all about. As always, I welcome your comments and questions during the class, and after the class you can put them in the comments and I'll get back to you with an answer. I'll let you know which of the resources of my playlists on YouTube or resources on my website where you can find the answers to your questions. I like hearing what you want to know about because it helps me choose new topics for the Friday class and for my videos. If you'd like to get notified as classes start, please subscribe to the channel and put the notifications on, and you'll get a little heads up by email every time we have a class on Friday, and some of our other in-depth classes coming up in January. Usually those will be on Saturdays as well. If you'd like to see past classes, go to the playlist of live streams, speech modification past live streams, and you can see other topics we've talked about and other questions from viewers. And of course, you can get, hello, good morning, or good afternoon or evening where you are, I think. Here it's morning, it's about 9:15 on Friday the 22nd, so it's the day after the solstice. Happy solstice, everyone. I was saying you can go to my website and get a free trial of any of my online classes or take my free accent training mini course to get some good information about your American accent. So, as I was saying, today we're going to be talking about intonation, and we have been talking about intonation and how to do it. I have some recent videos in my intonation playlist about intonation for statements and questions. I recommend checking those out. But let's talk a little bit in general about intonation, what it is and how to do it. So one thing that I'm going to recommend is trying to figure out what intonation is in your native language. Sometimes people are under the impression that their native language does not have intonation, and that's just not the case. All languages have some degree of intonation. It plays a different role, and it's more important in some languages than others in terms of conveying the meaning. So for example, in Spanish, one of the typical intonation patterns is to rise up at the end of a sentence or the end of an idea to show that you're finished, whereas in English we fall off at the end of an idea. So one thing you can do is, in speaking your native language, play around with your pitch and your length of words, and just listen and hear. Does that change meaning in your language? What are you doing? What's happening with your voice? You can also look it up. Wikipedia and other resources online will often tell you what's happening in different languages in terms of intonation. You can look at my website, speechmodification.com, for some information about your native language. Some languages are tonal, like, for example, Mandarin, where the pitch, rise, and fall contours change the word meaning. So in American English, we change the stress to change the word meaning. In Mandarin, if you changed the tone, the rising or falling, you would change what words you were saying. So that also changes meaning. In our case, we have typical stress patterns for how to stress words and what our kind of standard meaning or standard information is. That's typically to stress the last content word in a phrase. So nouns, verbs, and adjectives. And we do that by lengthening on that word and having generally a contrastive pitch. So usually we rise in pitch. We also can change the stress within a word and change the meaning of the word for some words. For some words function as nouns and as verbs. And so if we have the stress on the first syllable in a certain word, it will be a noun. And on the second syllable, it'll be a verb. So for example, the word project and project, it's spelled the same, it's basically the same word, but they sound different. We have a different stress pattern. On project, I'm stressing the first syllable. It's a noun, project. So that first syllable is long and the second syllable is short. The other thing that I'm doing there besides the syllable length is that I'm using a clear vowel. So on project, I have vowel ah on the first syllable. Project, I have a reduced vowel, vowel schwa on the first syllable. Project, project. I'm going to show you a visual for that. You can see more about this. I have videos for it as well. But in terms of project and project, I think that might be backwards for you. We have a clear vowel, project, long and stress on the first syllable, and project. Another example would be the words produce and produce. So produce, the noun, I have a long vowel, produce, and produce, vowel schwa, reduced. So vowel clarity and vowel length matter in changing the meaning within words. A third example would be the word report. Record. Report is the same. So with the noun, record, and the verb, record. Again, clear vowel or reduced vowel, length of vowel changes. I do have a video explaining nouns and verbs stress and how we change meaning within a word. More typically, though, and more important to understand for American intonation, is that we can change meaning by which word we stress in a sentence. So, for example, in the sentence, I gave it to him, our typical stress would be on the word gave. It's the verb, it's the most important word there, and it's towards the end. Of course, it's a very short phrase, so the end is also the beginning. But so let's hear that. I gave it to him. I'm lengthening on the word, the vowel on gave, and I'm raising in pitch. I gave it to him. That's my standard intonation pattern for that statement. However, if I change that, which word I'm stressing, and I instead stress the word him, I gave it to him. Listen to the two. I gave it to him. I gave it to him. When I change the stress, lengthen, and raise my pitch on him rather than gave, you can hear that the meaning changes. Rather than just saying, I gave it to him, I gave him something, I'm pointing out that I gave it to him, and it implies I didn't give it to her or him or him. So him becomes the important word the listener can hear because of that length and because of that pitch change on him. Oh, she's talking about specifically that I gave it to him, this one person. Another example, for the phrase, I like that, again, I'd be stressing the verb. It's the most important word in that sentence. I like that. You can hear I'm lengthening, I like that. I'm also going up in pitch. I like that. You can hear and practice standard intonation in my video for intonation for statements. Learn which words to stress in my video for stressing content words. Both of those will be linked after the broadcast today. So back to I like that. Standard intonation, I like that. If I change and stress that instead, I like that, you can hear the difference. I like that. I like that. When I'm stressing that, I'm pointing out a particular thing that I like versus just in general saying that I like it. A third way I could change that sentence would be to stress, I like that. That implies that I am the most important part of that sentence. I like that versus you like that or he likes that. One more example. Let's try the sentence, she said we could. In my standard intonation pattern for a statement, I would say, she said we could. I would say said would probably get the stress. She said we could. Actually could. It would be the most standard. She said we could. It's the last verb in the content phrase. So there's two verbs in there. I had to think for a minute where I would stress it. She said we could. I will, by nature, stress the last important word in the sentence or in the thought group. So on the standard intonation, I'm lengthening on could and rising up in pitch. She said we could. You can hear I'm also falling off on could to show that it's the end of the statement. So when I have to rise and fall off on one word, it's very important to have that vowel length, to have room to make that pitch change. She said we could. If I change the intonation in this and to change the meaning, I could change it several ways. One would be I could say, she said we could. Can you hear that saying, okay, I'm pointing out in particular that it was one person, she, who said that. She said we could versus she said we could. Secondly, she said we could. She said we could. That's implying that it's important to note that she said it. She didn't write it. No one else said it. It was she said we could. Or she said we could. She said we could. Implies we can, but maybe someone else can't. So there's a lot of meaning that is conveyed in terms of what word gets the stress. You can practice this in these types of simple phrases and also using any of my videos in my intonation series. The quick tip for today that I'm going to suggest, besides taking a look at what intonation is like in your native language to begin to hear intonation, an additional quick tip for American English is to choose one short phrase and use this phrase to practice your intonation, to notice when other people are saying it, and to see, okay, can I change which word I'm stressing and change the meaning in the phrase? You can use a phrase from one of my videos. Just this morning, I uploaded a video for the phrase, I don't know, showing you different ways that that is stressed and how the meaning changes depending on that word. I also have a video for stressing how are you or how are you. That's a really good one because we say that phrase a lot. You have a lot of opportunities to practice saying it and listening for the changed meaning based on the intonation pattern for that phrase. Or check out my intonation for statements or intonation for questions and choose one of those simple phrases, something that you say frequently, thinking about what word gets the stress and how you change meaning with stress. As always, I welcome questions after the broadcast. If you've had a look later in the day, please go ahead and ask your questions and I'll get back to you with an answer. And subscribe to get my live classes. I'm looking forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Next Friday, I probably will not be doing a broadcast between Christmas and New Year's. I'll let you know and post it on the channel page. But if I don't see you next Friday, I'll see you in 2 weeks. So thanks for being here today. It was nice to see you all. Remember, if you want to sound American, you can do it. Speech modification.